Going live to YouTube right now.
Okay, but why are you bringing up something you know will offend me, if I may ask?
And on that note, I want to welcome everybody to the world according to that man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. And welcome to the Saturday night special of our show. I want to thank everybody that's in the chat and that's been downloading our episodes. Amazingly, we've made it to number 41 in news and commentary in Saudi Arabia.
Wow. What? And where?
In Saudi Arabia.
Well, I mean, we love their stuff. I mean, I need gasoline for my car, so I love it.
I find that amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Why, Judah, you're an expert in these things. Why would this be?
Maybe Stein, they think means stone, and it means the world according to stone, and they like their stones. I don't know. Maybe it means Dillinger. But most important, I never know if this story's true, but when Joni and Chachi, after it went to syndication, I believe in China or Japan, it became the #1 show. True story, because Chachi means penis.
That's funny. In what language?
In Chinese or Japanese. I'm almost positive it's Chinese. But let's welcome the most complex individual we know, a man that has served our country for over 20 years, served many details, a true patriot to our country, from thesimplelifenow.com, Gary Collins.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And of course, the show wouldn't be complete without actor, writer, provocateur, saint, sinner, lover, father, grandfather, economist, statistician, mathematician, mathematician. Course.
Wait. I've forgotten again what mathematician is.
It's the combination of a mathematician and a statistician. It's your super level of deduction of numbers.
Okay.
It's a title that only Ben Stein has, but of course, most importantly,
I will tell you something, if I may, and I hope I don't get humiliated because I made a mistake on this. But Mr. Buffett did say something along those lines a number of years ago about me, and so did Harry Wellington, a very, very wonderful professor of law at the Yale Law School, where I was proud and grateful to go to law school.
That's I have no doubt about it. And he wrote the foreword in your book, and it's a true accomplishment, obviously. But most importantly, Dr. Benjamin Jeremy Stein, good to see you, sir.
Sir, I don't. Okay, first of all, everyone who's watching this has to understand, I don't take patients and I don't take insurance. And I only work on cases that are of interest to me because they have some historical, world historical significance, but I am a surgeon.
Okay, and you're also the youngest 76-year-old person there is. You live like you're 19.
You're very kind, sir.
And I mean that. And the reason I bring that up is because, as you were discussing the other day, Nancy Pelosi and her ample bosoms, and Gary had
more than ample.
and Gary almost fell off the treadmill.
I was so upset, Ben, because I won in on this conversation. I listened to it the next day, and I'm all, because I've talked about how big her tits are on my show.
They're huge, and they're huge, and they don't look like they belong there. They look like they came down from outer space.
Somebody wrote in the chat, they still refuse to check out Pelosi. I'm right there with you. But it got me to thinking, she's 81 years old, okay?
Is she really 81?
Yes, she's 81 years old. And the oldest person in the Senate is 87 years old. Can you name who that is?
Give me a hint.
California's own.
Yeah.
Dianne Feinstein.
She is 81.
87.
87. Wow.
Yes. So I decided to play a little bit of a little veer off politics for half a second. I decided to ask you, can you name what do you think the percentages are in the Senate, age-wise?
I would think most would be by deciles.
By what?
By 10-year gaps.
Yeah, by 10-year gaps.
I would think 70 to 79.
That's 20%.
That is a very large percentage.
Yeah, the 42% probably is 60 to 69, and 5% in the Senate is above the age of 80. And there are over 25 members of the House that are basically over from the age of 79 to 80 to almost 90.
How many?
Over 20.
That's nuts.
I love it. I love
And
it.
it's a little, I mean, Ben, I mean, and I don't mean to mock them, but I was thinking, the whole thing with you bringing up Nancy Pelosi and age and Dianne Feinstein being 87 years old. When you think about it, Ben, I mean, some of these people were about 10 years old when you were born, 11 years old when you were born.
Well, I like, well, let me back up a little bit. My very, very wonderful father, who's, I think, the best father I've ever heard of in my whole life, used to point out that being a congressman or senator is an incredibly difficult, complex job. Learning the workings of the government and of the nation takes a lot of intelligence and experience. And so it does take a while to do that, to learn that stuff. And I don't see why we shouldn't have people who have that knowledge working.
Well, you just said intelligence. You just brought up.
Some of them are intelligent. I agree. A lot are not, but some are very intelligent, and I want to have them working for us. I don't want them working against us. Unfortunately, I think we have a lot who are now working against us.
And the majority, before I get to Gary, just so everybody understands, Republicans have term limits in the House.
I did not know that.
So no, what I mean by that is in leadership committees, your leadership role lasts 10 years and Democrats have none. So when you look at the statistics of people in the Democratic Party above the age of 70 or 75, it's an overwhelming majority in the House that are Democrats. So Republicans need to start. There's no reward in the sense for Republicans to stay because Ben, they lose their leadership positions.
Well, I think that's a good point. Now, why do we have this position, this situation in terms of Republicans and Democrats? I think it has to do with race, because the Democrat Party is so heavily oriented towards African American freedom fighters, and their constituents tend to be just reelect them, and why not? Why shouldn't they? And they accrue a huge amount of seniority and accrue a huge amount of power by virtue of having that seniority. And I think that's something we Republicans should learn from. There's no shame in having power in the House of Representatives.
You're completely right. But Republicans, as we always know, don't cheat as well. They don't lie as well. They don't. It's a big flaw of theirs, Gary Collins, and it's a little scary when the average age of a certain thing is about 70. No offense, Ben, because you're like 20. And this has nothing to do with you. You live a different world. You live the world according to Ben Stein. But if somebody, Gary, and I mean this, I'm going to ask you both, but I'll ask Gary first. Can you tell me an accomplishment of Nancy Pelosi's?
Yes, I can.
I'm going to ask Gary first.
She's got a lot of plastic surgery. I don't know. She's crazy. I don't know.
Ben carries herself well.
Well, her here's 30. The rest is 81. It's really bizarre. But
I would like to make a suggestion, if I may. Why can't we see nude pictures of her? I mean, that is what she really wants, is for us to be impressed by her body. And I don't see any reason to fail to oblige her. I mean, if she wants to show off her breasts, why shouldn't she?
Ben, I got to be honest with you. It's all you, this Nancy love. No,
I didn't say I loved her. I didn't say I loved her. I said I was impressed. I have a hard time carrying in a bag of groceries from Pavilions, my local, very wonderful grocery store. And I can't even imagine carrying two huge bowling balls, basically, attached to my chest up and down the flight of stairs. I can't.
I'm not going to
imagine.
comment on that, but let's
She
get
seems to do it all the time without any.
I'm
Although
not
I'm
gonna-
guessing she's terribly rich. Am I mistaken about that?
Yes, and she's terribly rich because of basically insider trading with her husband, and her husband getting every inside. Recently with Amazon, they've had rules with her with the stock market, where his bank gained benefits from her being in power. But Gary, all age aside, there's a certain point where a person, it's too long. Most people don't.
Why?
Most people don't stay. Ben, most
to say it's too long is a restatement question. Why is it too long? Why is it too long? Many great
because we see right now, absolutely.
have been old.
Ben, we see right now with what's going on, absolute power, absolute corruption. Nancy,
No. With all due respect,
you know what that means when you say that.
These people tend to be corrupt because that is just who they are. That has nothing to do with age. And I defy you to use even the most brilliant statistician we could find and try to correlate age with criminal activity. I don't think it could
better at it. They just hone their skills over decades.
I respectfully question whether or not.
Why are you so against term limits? I don't understand. We have them for we have them for everything else. We have them for governor. We have them for president. We in some states have it for governor. We have it for why in the House and the Senate are you so okay with it?
I'm not. I think you're got this backwards. I'm not okay with it. I don't want there to be term limits in the House and in the Senate. I want people to accrue as much seniority as possible, stay there, learn how the game is played, and then play it as well as possible for the conservatives and the people of the Republican Party. So I have no problem whatsoever with people learning a lot about how the Senate works and how the government works. I just don't want them to all be Democrats. I would like there to be some sharing of the benefits of seniority among and between the various factions and parties. Why not? Why shouldn't we've got some very smart people in the Senate and House.
No, we don't. I gotta be honest with you.
Maybe.
I'll go to
hiding. You might be hiding.
No, Ben. Let's go to your former boss on this one. Most of the people in the House who you idolize are not fit to be dog catchers. So that's coming from Richard Milhouse Nixon. So people run in oligarchy type of places where they're never going to lose. So I mean Mazie Hirono, who I can't believe is 70, Gary, from Hawaii, is
she's got the brain power of a 5-year-old.
Of an absolute 5-year-old. And I don't necessarily think, I think competition breeds excellence, like in the business place, Ben.
I question that, but isn't Mazie Hirono just an ultra left winger?
Yeah. I never realized she was 71 years old.
Well, why 70?
No, I'm not saying. I understand. 71 is still very young, Ben. My point being is there's no competition, and no competition breeds a certain amount of, they don't want to lose power, a stalemate, where we are right now, because everybody in those positions just wants status quo. And that's a huge thing. And in certain districts, Ben, because of this, you're never going to get new people in the job, especially.
Why would we want new people in the job? Imagine I'm some guy in a little dinky precinct voting district somewhere, and I have no power. The people I live and play around, work around, don't have any power. But we have a congressman, a representative who has a lot of power.
Okay, I'll use you as an example. I want to use you as an example. Okay. You were a speechwriter, and sorry, Gary, for not you're just jump in at any point. You were a speechwriter for Nixon Ford. You were a lawyer.
I was a little tiny bit during the 80 campaign for Mr. Reagan.
Reagan, right? And you worked for the FTC. You worked for the FTC. You then went on to go to Hollywood. You then went on to go host
I went from actually FTC to UC Santa Cruz, and then back to Washington, to the White House, and then and then up to New York to work for the Wall Street Journal, and then after that to Hollywood.
To being on Fox News for almost 20 years at least.
No, but that was after.
I'm just saying different jobs that you've had through the way.
Lots and lots of different jobs.
And as one of the biggest speakers in America for quite a long time.
And I hope it comes back.
And it will come back. But my point being is you've done all these things and it's kept you fresh. There's a certain freshness that comes with your travels, with you being well versed, is my point. So take that into context. And I go to Gary. It's like when you're in detail duty, they change your detail up, right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, my job is an 1811, which is a GS designator for a criminal investigator, FBI, Secret Service, all of us. It's called an 1811. We have to mandatory retire at 57. I've talked about this before. I get to petition, you're done. It doesn't matter how great you are. Doesn't matter how smart you are. You're done. 57, you got to go. And it's because the skills start to diminish. The physical pressure starts to take its toll on you. And for me, me and Judah were talking about this yesterday. You realize that Joe Biden has been in politics almost a decade longer than I've been touching myself, and I'm in my 50s. I mean, just put that in perspective. He's been in politics for 50 years. That should not happen. Nancy.
Why? Why?
Because Ben, I used you as an example. Use yourself as an example. Your brain has grown. You've grown. You've metamorphosed as a human because of change, because you've chosen different avenues to get your stuff out, different mediums to get your stuff out. And that's why your stuff has remained so fresh and you're revered and looked at in so many different demographics.
Oh, you're very kind.
Because so use yourself as an example, Ben, of growth.
Well, you're very kind to say that, and I thank you humbly. But let me say, there is no reason why an intelligent person, or even a fairly intelligent person, should not just continue to accrue knowledge as he or she gets older. Why shouldn't he or she?
Ben, you're going against Richard Nixon on that note.
Well, no.
Yes, you are. Richard Nixon. What did he say about these people?
He said, as to the GOP members of Congress, he said, you must remember, Ben, most of these people are not fit to be dog catchers. But that was not because of their age by any means. That was for various other reasons, which you're going to have to wait to buy my book.
No. But my point being is it dumb at 31 is dumb at 81. And on that note,
I very much disagree. I very much disagree. The brain is a muscle, and if you use it a lot, it gets stronger.
Well, you know what? We're going to agree to disagree and still love each other and have this great discourse. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to the number 41 podcast in Saudi Arabia. Never get old saying that. And we're actually doing quite well. We're actually doing quite well in the States too. So that Canada, we're in the 50s. So which is North America, very happy. And I want to thank everybody for helping us get to in the chat, for helping us to get to number 41 in Saudi Arabia. I want to remind everybody to please download our podcast. Also subscribe to Ben's email, benstein.substack.com. We put about 3 of them out a week. And of course, listen to Gary's podcast. It's really good. It's really informative. SimpleLifeNow.com. He's had both Ben and myself on. He's amazing.
Ben and
I know.
Myself, not Ben and myself.
I knew you were going to do it. I know. Oh, I swear to you, I knew you were going to do it. Oh, Mrs. Levin, I knew you were going to do
Ben
it.
And
I want to. Ben.
Wait, Judah, was Lovin Lovin? Like McLovin?
Love it, L-O-V.
Oh, love it. I was.
Like Lovey craves it.
And I want to welcome everybody back to the world according to Ben Stein. And listen, everybody changes their views and ideas, and maybe one day I'll
His
have
views or her views, not
or their views. Pronouns, Ben. Be careful.
No, everybody is a singular.
But I'm just saying, we're a pronoun-friendly show. I would just started, by the way, thinking about the CDC. By the way, I want people in the chat to come up with their favorite name for the CDC, because that will be the name of the show tonight. I'm calling it the Center of Dictatorship Control, because
the Center of Dickhead Control.
I've got one even better: the Center for Dumb Cunts, and I get us banned.
No, we can't say that.
Sure, we can. Anything you want.
Well, Gary, you jumped the shark over there. But Ben, what's going on right now with the CDC? And I just, it's even people on the left, the most normal of the most, I don't want to say normal, but are looking at the CDC going, you're doing this stuff not based on science. And it almost like looks like, Ben, right now we're living as a country not based on anything.
Well, we're living as a country based on something which dare not say its name, which is to say racial politics. We have become South Africa after the death of apartheid, or the seeming death of apartheid. We have become a country in which race is everything, but we dare not say it because it would be simply politically unacceptable. But we live in a country in which at one point we had the terrible anti-Black racism, and then and now we have a terrible anti-white racism, and we're sort of running around in circles trying to figure out how we manage this without seeming to be too exquisitely racist. And yet I'm afraid we have become exquisitely racist, and it's a very, very unfortunate situation because racism is a bad thing no matter how you slice it.
So I want to ask you a question, and then I'll go to Gary on this one. But Ben, you've been around a very short time, but in that short time, have you ever seen the majority, their voice be so, that the minority's voice be so loud?
I think it's a very good question. It's a very, very good question. I'm not sure I ever have, and I think as we've discussed on this program a number of times, we have the the collusion of the leftists and the media and the leftists tend to be one, and they work together to suppress knowledge, thought, and truth, and that's a very powerful combination to work against, and very, very few people can do it, and certainly not the people who run this country, this great, great country. We can't do it. So we are facing a very unfortunate situation where we're basically running an anti-white person platform, and that's just not good. I mean, I don't blame Black people for being angry at the way Black people have been treated. They were treated terribly, just terribly for a very long period of time. But that is not solved by having an anti-white person regime.
But again, Gary, what Ben brings up is it's not just he brought up the other day that thing. I think you were on the show when he brought up the fourth branch of government, which is the media, and the media is as culpable in all of this as anybody. They're the ones that are steering this ship of hatred. They're the ones that are steering. They're the ones that are steering this. I don't think Ma and Pa, Black person in Southern Georgia, is steering this ship. And Gary, I can't help. It's like I look at the numbers. I'm very big into numbers, like Ben is, and I always think numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie unless you're a Democrat. And I look at the number in the Olympics. I look at the number of TV viewership of all of these things, and nobody is paying attention. And it's like, I've never seen before something so unpopular being so forced upon us.
Well, so unpopular as what, please?
As you think most men in America want to see a transgender person in Sports Illustrated on the?
Nope.
I don't. No, of course not. Of course not.
That's my point. I'm saying in sports, if you look at the numbers, if you look at what's going on, Gary, in all forms of media, nobody's paying attention.
Well, I saw this thing, I don't know, it's a couple of weeks ago about this little special about an all-female referee team crew for a small college division. I can't remember what it was, but they were the first ones to be referee a game, all females, college football. And I'm like, what the and I commented on Twitter. I couldn't help myself. I went, I want to see an all-female refereeing for football as much as I want to see an all-guy female orgy. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't understand why we have to go to these extremes of it's still commercials are black as black gets. I mean, you cannot watch a commercial without black people being the priority. And then it's just nonstop. And now movies, it's all about strong women, black pride. And we got to get out of this. We're all people. We're humans. We need to treat each other kindly. Have we treated each other badly in certain groups? Absolutely. But the answer isn't to pivot and then go full force and say, okay, now all white people are bad and you're all racist. And you need to basically pay us and you need to treat us differently. Wait, is it? I don't get it. It's like, why don't you work on the merits of you as a person? That's how I treat people.
That I'm afraid, my dear friend, has been going on for quite some time. That's the at a certain point, we decided that we were going to favor black people in the media. We were going to say that they were better and promote them and make them when there were villains in a show, they were almost always going to be white and never black. And and we just snowballed down the road to pick up ever more black or all black heroes or heroines, and so that's how it went. Is it wrong? I don't think it makes for much drama, but I don't. I'm not the author of these shows, and I'm not the producer of these shows, so I don't get to choose whether it makes for good drama. But it definitely does not make for truth. Definitely, I mean, assuming there's some value in truth, then having all these shows in which black people are invariably the heroes and white people are invariably the villains, that does not make for much truth.
So Gary, go ahead.
Well, in the Olympics, so what are the numbers now? Are they going down?
Yeah, the numbers have been trending down, which is really hard when your opening night is 17 million.
That's bad. Well,
what would the opening night have been 20 years ago, Judah?
Probably 60 or 70 million.
Wow.
And 4 years ago, the opening night was 40 million. And they're blaming it on COVID. They're blaming it on COVID.
Wait. Back up a second, my friend. How can that be if you're watching it at home? You can't catch COVID through the TV.
Well, they'll look for any excuse to there was the lady, or I mean, literally the most ludicrous.
What lady?
It was delayed for a year.
Oh.
They're looking for the most. But I almost forgot we wanted to talk about something, which is getting back to Nancy Pelosi, and Ben and I were on the phone talking about this, and the conversation evolved into her not feeling comfortable in her own skin, right? Why would somebody have the need?
It's all fake.
Yeah. Why would somebody have the need for all these surgeries if they were comfortable with themselves? And I brought up the point about Donald Trump, whatever people want to say about him. And we're always trying to figure out, Ben, why people hate him so much. It's sometimes, and I said this to Ben on the phone, I think it's because he's so darn comfortable with who he is.
I think there's a lot to that. And it goes back to even earlier to my hero, Mr. Nixon. Why did people hate Mr. Nixon so much? He was not particularly comfortable within his own skin. And so that's what made people hate him, because, as I say, he wasn't particularly comfortable within his own skin.
Yeah, but there's a difference, though, Ben. There's a difference, and I'll say the one difference. Donald Trump, we know, is a woman. He likes women. He likes money. certain things that Richard.
You show me someone who doesn't.
No, but I'm saying Richard Nixon never took $1 for a speech when he left office.
Right. Nixon was, in terms of self-abnegation about money, was in a class by himself.
Right. So,
never been anyone like him.
So when you said Nixon wasn't comfortable in his own skin, I was trying to say with Trump, he's extremely comfortable in his own skin and the perks that come with who he is. So you were saying, why did so many people despise Nixon? He wasn't comfortable in his own skin. I was trying to say about Trump, because he has seemingly whatever he's gotten and wants. And
that may well be envy is a huge part of life, huge part. But and that, as I say, that may be a dominant part of their envy is everything. But on the other hand, I'm old enough to remember when Nelson Rockefeller was an important figure in Republican politics, very, very important figure. And of course, as rich as Rockefeller, as one might say. And no, I don't remember people seemingly feeling envious of him. There's something about Mr. Trump that makes people feel envious and angry at him that that goes beyond envy about money.
No, I'm saying it's because he's so comfortable with who he is.
I'm saying that is not. It has nothing to do with the fact that he loves being rich. What does it have to do with? He loves something about himself quite a lot, and I'm not quite sure what it is. But people, there's something about him that makes people hate him. We're restating a question here. Why is it that we hate him for being comfortable with who he is?
Because so many people aren't. So many people are miserable in their own skin, Gary.
Well, it's very interesting because when you compare.
Good point.
Oh, and by the way, Nixon played football at Whittier College. I know,
right. But I think somebody.
I said Notre Dame. I was way wrong.
Quite a difference in Whittier and Notre Dame.
Whittier, I could have played at Whittier, but actually, I had a good friend I grew up with who played at Whittier. That when you look at Trump and you look at Obama, they're very egocentric, very much so. And I always found it fascinating that people didn't hate Obama, even though he carried himself very as I'm the shit, don't backtalk me kind of guy, very like Trump, but different flavor, but very egotistical. But people, they would latch on, the left latches onto Trump. I've never seen it. I've been around left people who literally, I walk up to them and I know them. They're my friends. The first words out of their mouth are F Trump. I hate that guy. I want him to die. I mean, I haven't even said a word yet.
Why is it that people hate Trump so much? I don't understand it. I have close family relatives who just hate him. I don't understand it.
I don't get it either.
I just don't get it.
I don't love the guy. You know, I don't sit and worship him all day, but he doesn't affect me that way. I'm like, okay, he's weird. But
and it's interesting. I spend a lot of my time in the offices of psychiatrists. I can't afford it anymore, so I probably won't be doing it anymore. But I ask them all the time, and they never have an answer. Why do people dislike Trump so much? Just like I always ask them, why did people dislike Nixon so much? And that largely was ideological, because a lot of people who hated him were communists, and he was a very successful red hunter within the government. But why did people? The hatred of Nixon goes even beyond that. There are certain people who just attract hatred, and I don't know what it is. It scares me.
But I think you've summed it up. I think it's jealousy and it's envy. If people don't like people that are insecure, that don't like themselves, that don't have certain things, are always the ones that are envious towards people that people like, that people gravitate towards. It's one of those things. If you ever, it's, why would anybody not like Ben Stein other than jealousy or envy? And I'm saying, I mean that things you're alike, and Gary's in the same boat. You're both liked people. You're both and when you're not a well-liked person, and you have to be and you have to do everything possible to be liked, you're going to tend to dislike the other person, that it comes so easy. And I know that's just one thing, Ben.
You make a good point, Judah, because if you have to pretend to be someone else to be liked, you're going to hate the people who are more genuine and comfortable in their own skin because you're fake.
Right. But on the other hand, if you're really comfortable in your own skin, you project a certain amount of self-confidence, and that makes people like you. I mean, I give you the example of John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who projected tremendous amounts of self-liking, not self-loathing, self-liking. And it made a lot of people just love him to pieces. And it made some people hate him and some want to kill him. And so that was definitely going on. Why did people hate Lyndon Johnson so much? You guys are too young to remember this. People just hated Lyndon Johnson. Why? I never been able to understand why. If you're a devout segregationist, you would hate him because he was a very, 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 very big on civil rights. But why, in terms of personality, do we dislike him? But here we get into a really, really important subject, which is the psychology of political appeal. And why is it that certain people have appeal and certain people do not? That is a really deep and important question. It merits much, much more of the time of psychiatrists and psychoanalysts than it gets. But psychologists and psychoanalysts are just as dishonest and self-seeking as everybody else. So we can't count on honest answers from them either.
Well, I think something, you bring up a good point, because I've looked at who I've changed my views on in the Senate, let's just say. And there's one thing that stands out among all the people, and it has nothing to do with their backing of Trump. But people like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul, they finally stood up. There's no more of that. There's no politician left, in a sense, in these two men. And I'm just using them two as an example.
I'd like you to explain what you mean by that. I don't quite get that.
It means with Rand Paul going after Fauci, it's not about politics. When he does it, he's not doing it for theater. It's not, no offense to Trey Gowdy, for the theater of the absurd, or the theater of the Republicans going after the Clintons for God knows how long. Rand Paul is on a mission right now as a medical doctor, to disavow Fauci, or to discredit Fauci as a leader in the scientific community. And there's something.
I was under the impression that Rand Paul was an ophthalmologist.
He's a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, but what would that have to do with virology?
No, I'm just saying. I'm either way. He's practicing the principles that he's preached. He's going after this person. I don't believe it has to do with political ideology. I'm saying it's simply he believes somebody like Fauci is wrong. So my views on Rand Paul in many ways, Ben, have changed.
Okay, and I agree very much so. I used to dislike that family intensely and considered them anti-Semitic, but I've gotten to like them quite a lot. And I think they are, as you say, standing up, and they're being honest and they're being brave. I'd like to know, where are the honest Democrats? Let's go back to that. Where are the honest Democrats who are standing up and saying, look, we have a president who's a Democrat who is pretty darn clearly senile. We have a vice president who is very, very clearly not up to her job, or not even close to being up to her job. When are we going to tell the truth to the American people about these people we caused them to elect? When are we going to start seeing some kind of truth trailing out of their butt as they go flying through the sky?
Gary, he raises a good question, and I know we were discussing this. You were more on the, I want to say, you were a person without a party that you've sort of said, obviously now you swing a little bit more one way. And he brings up a great point about people on the left. And I had this conversation with my mother, who we grew up knowing Chuck Schumer. And my mother said to me, like, what happened to him? And I said, power didn't change Chuck Schumer. It just showed you who he really was. And power, that's what power does, and that's what money does. It doesn't change people. It just shows you who their core is. And Ben's asking a great question with Democrats. Where are people calling them out, Gary?
Where are the honest Democrats?
Well, if you do, you get canceled. So it's an interesting time.
Yeah,
Great point.
Yeah, it's a very,
Yeah.
very important point. Extremely important point.
Well, and even the Republicans, they have to kind of pick their battles. They're on a razor's edge half the time. And if they get too far out of the party line, they're going to get attacked by their own party. That's the part I can't get, is when Republicans turn on Republicans. And then they coalesce.
It's happening more and more.
And I want to ask you, Ben, but between Nixon and Trump, was it very similar as the hatred, or was it more with Trump? From your experience, I wasn't around for Nixon, so I'm just very curious.
I think the Republican Party started to be disloyal to themselves and to one another under Nixon, because the media basically came to them. They didn't do it exactly like this, and said, we will give you a choice. You can go after your own top dog, Mr. Nixon, and call him names and say gently or violently that he has to go, or you can keep quiet and we will go after you. So the media, I think, approached this as a goal, turn the party against itself. And it worked extremely well. Would it ever work again? I don't think it would. It would have it obviously didn't under Mr. Reagan. Reagan was too popular. He had too much power. Yeah, it was just reeked of power. But Trump, he's an interesting guy, powerful guy in many ways, but not like Reagan. I mean, Reagan just has so much karmatic power. It was insane. You could not touch the guy.
So he raises a great question. And I was thinking about this today. I was reading the story with Merrick Garland in Texas, who's telling Governor Abbott that it's against the law, basically, for him to deny busing for illegal immigrants across the country. This is the Attorney General of the United States, and thank gratefully for Mitch McConnell, not even as bad as the judges are.
Did a beautiful job.
Not on the Supreme Court. But Ben, this goes back to what, Obama had always said with Holder. He was his wingman, and obviously Merrick Garland, and that Trump couldn't get a freaking wingman, that he couldn't get somebody. That you look back on it now, and Jeff Sessions, what a nit. What a boob for getting that whole thing in motion by recusing himself for something he never did. Instead, Ben, he should have just done what Democrats did and said, screw you, I'm staying on. I'm not letting this case go. And we could have avoided 3 years of garbage if Jeff Sessions would have had a set like these people on the left do.
Well, what did we do instead of that? I mean, we did something that allowed us to maintain our power on Capitol Hill, but unfortunately, we sold a little bit of our soul to the media empire. No.
What I'm referring to, though, is if Jeff Sessions would have just pulled what Democrats do and said, screw you, we're going to make our own laws, we're going to follow our president, the guy that appointed us. But Jeff Sessions didn't do that. And because of that decision, it caused so much chaos. I mean, it led to the Mueller, and it led to so much more, Ben. And it's time, and Gary raised a great question. Why can't Republicans coalesce? What is it?
Well, I think, with all due respect, I think they do sometimes coalesce. And as I said a moment ago, they coalesce to defend and protect Ronald Reagan, and when he had done something quite clearly wrong and quite clearly dishonest, but they could not do that with Mr. Trump. I mean, I think the Congress, like everyone else, likes to follow someone with karma, and Mr. Trump didn't have it. He had it with the ordinary citizen, going to those huge rallies. Yes, absolutely had it with them, but he certainly didn't have it in the most recently concluded election. But now, who's he going to go after? I don't know. We are starting up in our little pathetic homespun, I shouldn't say pathetic, our homespun way we're starting up some kind of movement for Republicans in the next 4 year next presidential election. Will the Republicans coalesce to work together for that? We don't know yet, but we're going to try. We're going to try from the ground up. I mean, I have a house in Beverly Hills. We'll try from the ground up. We already are having meetings there to talk about putting together a group to work for a more conservative America, and we'll see if it goes anywhere. But maybe we can make a coalition. But our basis is a basis that I think has to work, which is we want an America that has turned to God. We want an America that has turned our life and our will over to God. We don't want an America that is run by the Bolsheviks. We want an America that it belongs to people who believe in God.
And on that, brilliantly said. And on that note, if you just tuned in, you are listening to The World According to That Man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. I wasn't invited to that meeting.
You are quite mistaken, with all due respect.
I'm kidding around. I want to thank everybody humbly for downloading the shows, and I beg of you to please download Gary's show too. It's really brilliant. I love what I love about Gary, and I'll say this on the Saturday night. He's content. He's content with who he is, and you know. So
where do you live, Gary?
What's that?
Where are you right now?
Still in the RV in Arizona, building the house, the other house.
Studio. And he's in the process of selling a house. And also, Rock Breath is on the road trail, is going around America. So in his RV. So God bless you, Rock Breath. But also, welcome back to The World According to That Man, Benjamin Jeremy Stein. And Ben and I have listened to an awful lot of music together through the years, and an awful lot. And there was one song recently that I was not familiar with, and Ben could not believe I was not familiar with this song. So I was thinking to myself, and it's On the Eve of Destruction by not written by Barry McGuire.
Sergeant Barry McGuire.
Yes, it was sung by him, but not written by him. Oh. And I couldn't help but think that sometimes feels like how this country is sometimes right now, on the eve of destruction. But I was going to ask you, on that line, can you name a song that you feel represents the times? Not to put you on the spot.
Okay, may I sing it?
Okay, yes, but remember, you got to do it. We don't want to be sued for copy.
I don't want to be sued. People moving out, people moving in, all because of the color of the skin. Run, 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 but you sure can hide.
Brilliantly said, The Temptations, and Ben introduced me to that song. But Gary,
all talented, tough Temptations, and the lead singer was a Mr. Ruffin.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What do you mean? Oh my God.
He was amazing. He was amazing.
He used to have an office or however it's pronounced, in a building where my bank is. It used to have a big account there. Now it's a small account. And we used to see him there all the time, and he was a very friendly, talented guy. And he passed away not long ago. I don't.
No, it was quite a while ago in an alley, like overdosed or crack.
I don't know about that, but I do know that by an amazing coincidence, not only did he and I go to the bank at the same bank, a very, very, very small bank. Tiny bank, but he lived near where I have a couple of condos I bought to store my files from the Nixon years, and I used to see him there all the time, and I was just awed by what a friendly, great, down-to-earth guy he was, and yet so unbelievably talented. So you would never have known who he was.
Yes, and I agree with the people in chat. Aaron Lewis's new song, "Am I the Only One?" is brilliant, a brilliant song. What about you, Gary? What Rush song?
Subdivisions is always very timely, but I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to go Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime.
I don't know that song. Could you sing it?
Yeah, tell us a couple lyrics.
Oh God, I would love to. I'd have to look it up, but I remember if we go through the lyrics, because it's a concept album. That was a concept album, and it's basically corruption and the system. and Operation Minecraft. I would have to go get the words. I got caught off guard, but I'd look it up. People go look it up. I think it fits for what's going on right now. But Ben, I want to ask you, because real quick, when you were talking about you're getting some Republicans and conservatives together, I want to know, as someone as just a everyday citizen, here's what I see. I see Trump bring in these huge rallies. I see people support him and love him and these huge numbers, big voting, but he's hated by the DC swamp. And what that does is that puts the citizen thinking, well, I'm supposedly the person who technically runs this company is the individual American, right? As a group, right? It's for the people, by the people. Now, when we see this and we see that we vote someone in, we go to the rallies, we support big numbers, yet this person is hated by the institution. It really puts the average citizen on guard of, what am I doing? Why do I even care? My voice does not matter. And I think that's a huge point right now, is a lot of Americans feel that their voice is not heard.
And yet another terrible example of how incredibly powerful the media is. If you speak out against the media, you get heckled, beaten down. Luckily, it's not like it was in the days of Nazi Germany or Bolshevik Russia, because people are not killing you if you dissent, but they certainly can kill your career, and they can kill your standing in the community, and they can make your life very uncomfortable, and they can make your children's lives very uncomfortable. So I have seen that. I remember it very well from my childhood. I had a neighbor in my lovely block in Silver Spring, Maryland, a really, really, really wonderful block. And my neighbor was a fellow who, a little tiny bit older than I am, a very, very, very talented guy. His parents had been, I've told this story, named as communists, and they both lost their jobs, and their neighbors were mean to them, and they were ostracized, and so they moved out to Silver Spring. And luckily, the mother, I think it wasn't the family, had inherited some money, so they were not hard up. But they led quiet lives. But well, boy, if they hadn't had that money, they would have been in a lot of trouble.
Well, and I think that's what puts the average American on guard, is because they're afraid to even voice their opinion, because someone can come out, cancel them, ruin them, and not only lie about them.
You know what it reminds me of, Gary, though? You know, it's so high school, right? And the reason I bring that up is because one of our favorite bands is obviously Rush, who is never accepted.
Warrior, mean stride, today's Thompson, mean guy.
And so I offer this with hope with a band like Rush, who is never accepted by pretty much anybody, except for people that look like the three of us. And as they said in the documentary, one day that Rush became cool. And you know, I'm hoping, as Ben brings up what he's talking about with this new conservative ideology and new conservative thought, is that one day that'll be cool. You never know when the cool pendulum shifts. And to those of us that were a little geeky in high school, that weren't like overly saying, hey, I'm listening to Paula Abdul instead of Danzig or whoever else we liked, you know, Ben, you've always gone with the beat of your own, what you like type of drum. You don't.
You say so.
No, but you do. You go to bed watching documentaries. Why? Because you enjoy them.
Right. I go to bed watching Perry Mason, because
now it's Perry Mason.
The people in Perry Mason look like normal people. They don't look like crazy people the way people on modern day television do. They look like normal people.
And by the way, somebody brought up A Veteran of 1,000 Psychic Wars by BOC. Blue Oyster Cult, Ben. burn down today. That actually, season's going to fear the Reaper.
It's seasons
Seasons
don't fear
fear
the
the
Reaper.
Reaper.
Nor do the wind, the moon, and the sun. We can be like they are. We can be like they are.
Yeah,
That's some deep stuff indeed.
Yeah, that would be like that would be the perfect songs of today. But Ben, in getting back to what Gary brought up, and obviously you saw it with Nixon, and you saw it with Trump, and you brought up Reagan. He was so Reagan was, and the problem with the Republican Party is they were chasing Reagan for the better part of 35. It was always about he's not the next Reagan. I think there's a certain amount that has to be said. And the reason I brought up people like Rand Paul and another one is Ted Cruz, because there's actually some very good individuals in the Republican Party. There's
absolutely great ones, not just good ones, great ones,
like Tom Cotton and Josh Hawley, and who are really young.
By the way, I know you don't like him, but I love Lindsey Graham. I just love him to pieces. I just think he's great. I know you don't like him, but the guy from South Carolina, the prosecutor, I'm now forgetting his name. We talk about him all the time, constantly talking about him. What's his name again? The prosecutor. You always say he was going to do this, he was going to do that, and he never did it. But I liked him a lot. He was really, really good during the hearings, the collusion hearings. He was really good.
Trey Gowdy, you're referring to. I just think it was a lot of kabuki theater, and yeah, it was great. He was on 7 episodes of Forensic Files, and I think he's exceptional at that game. What I meant was
talking, not doing.
Yeah, but what I meant though was you could see, like with Cruz, his heart is in it. You could see with some of these people, their hearts are in it. And I think that's why I brought Rand Paul, because as he's doing this and as he's trying to, Gary, get things to change, you feel it from the heart, closer to the heart. Of course.
About Rand Paul, people, I'm amazed how people gloss right over this, especially Democrats and their violent tendencies today. I'm going to say it. They scare me because they're incredibly violent. And Rand Paul's been almost killed twice, and he's been threatened. When he was walking with Dan Bongino and that crew, they were yelling some pretty ugly things, and he was surrounded. This guy has no reason to stay in politics. If there's someone who should say, I'm out, screw all of you, I've done my time, it's him. And that's what's impressed me. The guy's taken some real beatings.
He's taking some real shots.
Very brave guy and a smart guy, and I think is leading the charge down what could be one of the major scandals in American history, which is to say there could be some kind of very, very serious disinformation going on about COVID. It could be something very serious going on.
I've always said it stinks to high heaven. Well, I work for those agencies, but I mean, like masks, them putting out mask data. There is no way to analyze whether masks work or not. There's no way to do it. It is literally impossible. How are you going to determine if a mask works or not? There's no way. What are you going to put 1,000 people who are infected together wearing masks? Then you're going to put 1,000 people who are not wearing. No one's ever done it. There's no real data on masks. That's the part when you know you're being sold a bill of goods, when they just flat out make it up. There's no data on masks. There's nothing. Zero. No one knows if they work. No one knows if they don't work. You don't know.
And here's the thing about the left, Ben. We've learned that no data applies.
No data means that means that you Republicans don't have any data. We don't need no stinking data. And I go back again and again and again. I believe it's the treasurer of the Sierra Madre, where the corrupt Mexican law enforcement officers say to Humphrey Bogart and his friends, badges, we don't need those stinking badges. Same with the Democrats in Congress and with the Democrats at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Badges, laws, mandate of the people. We don't need those stinking things. We're in charge. And I will go back again to a time when I was a columnist for the New York Times, And I called the White House and asked about where they got the authority to do some dramatic thing they were doing in the automobile industry. And the spokesman said, we don't need any authority. We're the president. I said, yes, but the president can't just do it. He needs some authority. We don't need no authority. We're the president.
Brilliantly said. And I just want to, so people that are listening, we go against after Democrats like we do Republicans. And I want to give the Jackass Award to Senator Kevin Kramer from North Dakota, who was on the Jay Thomas show this week. And he was asked about Ashley Babbitt, the woman that was killed on Capitol Hill. And he basically said that she was warned and she deserved it.
Oh my God, you are kidding.
No, I'm not at all. And
wow.
And
terrifying, just terrifying, really, really terrifying.
And he said he was great. He said he was grateful for the policeman that did it. And
that did what? I'm sorry.
That killed Ashley Babbitt. He was grateful for that policeman, Jim Cramer, North Dakota senator. And he actually really does win the Jackass Award.
Absolutely.
I think it's more than Jackass, sir.
Yeah, it's as you'd say, it's sinister. And because going again, we have absolutely no, bringing back the data, we have no data whatsoever. We have nothing. We have nothing from where, like we've asked Ben, where are the phones? Where are the cameras? Where is the evidence? I wanted to get to one more thing, but we're out of time. Stupid me. About your friend that just got out of bailed out for $250 million, and I keep on forgetting to bring him up, but we should. Everybody should fight.
Barrack, a great guy.
Everybody should fight.
Citizen, a great man. The fact that he's terribly rich should not make us dislike him or be jealous of him. He stands for all that's great about this country, and he is being railroaded and hounded, tortured by the Democrat Party in what is, to me, a theater of the Gestapo and a very scary turn of events in this great United States of America.
If you could just answer me this one question before we leave the show. We have literally people that are committing aggravated assaults, armed robberies across America being released on no bail. Tom Barrack, who I don't even understand, it's always going to be the FBI. He said something that didn't add up or whatever it is. $250 million bond, Ben, and $5 million in cash. Yeah,
I know it's a very, very terrible situation, and if I may say so, it extends all the way across the whole investigation and prosecution and persecution of the people who are ushered into the Capitol by the Capitol Police and now are being treated as if they were murderers.
That's exactly right. And it's Tom Barrack. Tom Barrack.
I know very well who it is.
No, I know people in chat. I was trying to tell them. Gary, final words?
I don't know.
Those are perfect final words. You don't know.
I got nothing.
And on that note, I want to thank everybody that's been listening in the chat. I'm very humbled by it. I think I will name the show tonight Center for Democrat Control. Norma, that was a great suggestion. I thank you highly, very much. And also remind everybody, download the episodes, push us up in Saudi Arabia as much as humanly possible. I want to remind everybody to get Ben's email, benstein.substack.com. Also, as important, go to GarySimpleLifeNow.com, learn how to live off the grid and be your authentic self. Listen to his podcast. They are exceptional. But of course, the show wouldn't be complete without that man. You can find him at spectator.org. He's working on a brilliant new book about the great.
It'll be brilliant. But about the great Richard Nixon.
Of course, it'll be brilliant. And Ben, let me push it. Okay. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be the best of all time. And I truly believe that because there's nobody that should be writing about Richard Nixon other than you and maybe Pat Buchanan. And of course, please go to spectator.org. If you could afford to throw a few extra dollars, please do. We will see you Tuesday night. Take us out.
You got to win a little, lose a little, and always have fun. lose a little. That's the story of, that's the glory of love. And that is dedicated to the finest human being on this planet, my
Judah
wifey,
Friedman.
Alexandra, no middle name, Denman Stein, the absolutely finest person that ever drew breath. God bless her.
I agree with you 100%. Have a great night. We will see you. Have a great rest of your weekend. We will see you Tuesday night.